Hello, friends. Welcome to the first session on social issues. So, as you can see, the topic is salient features of Indian society, diversity of India. So, what are we going to discuss as part of this topic, and how are we going to discuss this, right? What is the roadmap? So, what we'll do is first we will try to understand what is society. The term society is something with which we use every now and then, but do we understand the term? We know what are the different dimensions of it, what are the different kinds of processes involved. So what we'll do is first we will look at the concept of society. What is the meaning of this term? What is the definition of this? Now once we understand what constitutes society, then we will go one step further. We'll try to understand Indian society. What are some specific features of Indian society? Societies world over, they're not the same, they vary. Similarly, Indian society is also having some unique characteristics. And unique does not necessarily mean good. It might mean good, it might mean also some dimensions might not be good as well. Right? What we'll do is we'll just look at the features. We'll not do any value judgments over there. So we'll see how Indian society has so much amount of diversity. What are the axes along which you have diversity? Despite this diversity, how come Indian society has unity to a large extent? We look at the caste system in India. We look at what kind of classes exist in India. We have different social classes. Then we'll try to understand the extent of religious diversity that is there in the Indian context. So all these things we are going to explore one by one. So the second part will be this features, and we'll spend decent amount of time exploring the different features. The third part, we'll try to understand how societies change. What factors lead to changes within society? So first we will see some factors which lead to changes in society. Then we'll try to look at things that have happened in the Indian context. What are some of those major things which has happened in the last maybe 60, 70 years, which might have implications on society? So this is how the roadmap looks like. Society, then features of Indian society, then social change. What are some factors which bring in social change? So let's get started. The first part, what is society? Now, I would want you to maybe pause this video, maybe for 1 minute, and try to reflect. What is society? What do you understand by society? The term society you use quite frequently. In fact, almost every second day you will be using the term society. What do you understand by this? When you use the term society, what do you mean by that? Give it a thought. Pause it, pause the video, and maybe for 30 seconds, 1 minute, think about it. What all are those components of society, maybe? Yeah. So I hope you spent 1 minute uh, thinking about the different aspects of society, the different meanings of society. So, what is society? We'll try to look at the definitions, but before that, just maybe give a thought to it. Is society a group of individuals? If let's say five, six people come together, is that what society is? Those physical beings out there? Or is there something more to that? If few individuals come together, they might form a society. But is it just those physical beings or is it something else? See, when some people come together, yes, they form a society. I mean, that's the most basic unit of society, maybe. But society is not just individuals, society is more than that. Society means, yes, those individuals, but also the kind of relations that exist between them, the kind of interactions that exist between them, the kind of transactions that is happening between them, the kind of interconnections that exist. All these constitute society, all these are integral part of society. In fact, these beings, physical beings, these human beings, They might not exist. They might die. We are all mortals. But because they came together, there was some interaction which happened. Something new might have emerged. There was something which emergent. This thing will continue to survive. I'll give you an example. See, at some point of time, the kind of languages that we have right now, they didn't exist. Right now, I'm talking with you, I'm interacting with you. In fact, I can't see you. You can see me on the video, but we're not interacting live. But we are able to understand each other. I'm speaking a particular language. I'm speaking English. You're also able to understand English. At some point of time, English language would not have existed. Few individuals would have come together. They would have tried to communicate with one another. They might have made different kinds of signs, gestures. With the help of that, they would have communicated. Over a period of time, from signs, gestures, people would have developed gradually, right? There would have been development of languages. One of those languages could have been English. In fact, the way we use English right now, the same way English would not have been used in the past. The language is also evolving. The people who would have introduced the language or who would have developed the language, they no longer exist. But we are able to communicate using the language. Right? So those physical beings, they came together, formed a society, but when they interacted, they created something new. They don't exist, but whatever they have created, that exists. Right? So something new emerged out of those interactions. Similarly, the different kinds of values, norms that we have, we all will be having some values. We will be adhering to different kinds of norms. Again, not everyone adheres equally to all norms. Some of us might be following all the different kind of societal norms. Some of us might not be following it completely, but to some extent we follow. All these social norms, values have not been created overnight. You have not created it, most likely. Someone else, multiple decades, centuries back, maybe would have created it. Some norms are relatively new, some norms are centuries old, and people continue to abide by them. Those who would have created those norms might not exist. In fact, the norms might not have been created in one go. So, what I am trying to say here is society is not just a group of people, it is much more than that. It is a relationship that exists between people. It is the relationship which creates multiple things. Different things emerge out of these relations, different things emerge out of these interactions. Right? So, all these things are part of society. This is one definition. Another definition by McIver, more or less same. Society is a web of social relationships. In society, we are in relationships with different people, different others members of the society. Different kinds of relationship can be there. Family is one social institution. Within the institution of family, a particular kind of relationship will be there. If you look at economy, right? Again, you will find different kind of social relations over there. When you are at your workplace, you have different relationships with your subordinates, with your superiors. In the markets, again, a different kind of relationship between producers and the buyers. All of us are linked with one another through different kinds of relationships. So society is nothing but this web of social relationships. Every individual has multiple relationships. So society is that. Another way to think of it, society refers not to a group of people, but to the complex pattern of norms of interaction that arise among them. Something that I already talked about. So society is not just few people, it is much more than that. Among these people, you have different kinds of interactions. And how these interactions are happening, they're based on certain kinds of norms, which again the people have come up with. These people might not exist tomorrow. We are all mortals. But these norms of interaction might continue to remain. The next generation might follow it, but they might also tweak it. It's not that whatever norms have been created, they remain like that. They are also continuously evolving. They're also continuously changing. So people, along with that, the relations, the interactions, the norms, all these things that are being created, all these constitute society. right? So when you think of society, think about this. Don't think that only few people coming together leads to formation of society. What we will do now is we'll try to understand some of the features of society, right? Some of the components of society, some of the characteristics of society. That will give us a better understanding. Now let's look at some of these features, characteristics. First thing, society is abstract. What is abstract? Something that is not tangible. You cannot go, feel, see that society, right? You cannot touch and see society. You can see the manifestations of society. If I ask you, show me society, will you be able to do that? Most likely not. Society is something which is abstract. It's not something which is tangible. You cannot touch society somewhere. You cannot locate society somewhere. But the manifestations of society you can feel. I'll give you an example. In different places, we behave differently. And again, when I use the term we, I'm talking about most of the people. Some people might be completely different. They might not be socialized, but most people will behave in different ways in different places. Right? For example, if you are entering into a place of worship, most likely that place of worship will have its own norms, regulations, and you will adhere to that. Most likely, you will not take your footwear inside. Again, you will not. Most likely, you will not be speaking loudly inside a place of worship. These are all accepted societal norms over there. So people are adhering to that. But why are the people adhering to that? Because again, these norms they have somehow assimilated. You can't see society here, but you can see that people are following certain kinds of societal norms. So the manifestation of society is this. People are adhering to, all the people inside the place of worship are adhering to these norms. The manifestation of society, manifestation of these norms. But if I ask you where is society, you will not be able to figure that out. So society is something which is abstract in nature. You can see the manifestations, you cannot directly go and see society. The next aspect, society involves likeness, similarities. In society, you will find similarities. For example, some people, a group of people, they might be linked with blood ties, or they might be linked with because of marital ties. They're all relatives, right? Those who are linked with blood ties, they're relatives. If people are linked because of marriage, they're also relatives. So they will try to find out that, or they will try to think of the similarities that exist among them. They will try to associate themselves. They will say that, okay, we are part of the same kin group. We are part of the same extended family, maybe. Right? So this is an example of likeness. People are trying to find out some similarities between them. This is just one example. Sometimes people might follow a particular kind of religious value. They think that they are part of the same religion. People might consider themselves to be part of the same caste. So these are all different kinds of similarities that exist. That people who are from the same caste, they think they have something in common. People who are part of the same religion, they think they have something in common. At a higher level, nationality, people might feel that they're part of some imaginary construct. We are all part of the same nation. That is why we are same. Maybe we have something in common. Maybe we all speak the same language, or maybe we have same history, or maybe we are all from the same religion. All these things might be binding them together, and this can be the basis of formation of different national identities. So in society, you will find likeness. There will be people who will be trying to find out what is similar between some others. Right? They will the different kinds of groups might form on the basis of this likeness. But at the same time, in society, you will find differences. You will find variations. You will find people uh, among whom there will be different kinds of biological differences. There are some people who will have a particular skin color. Another set of people will have another skin color. There will be biological differences. Male, females, third gender, right? Biological difference. But at the same time, you will have differences maybe in terms of wealth. Every society will find some people who are affluent, some people who are maybe not as affluent, some people who are extremely poor. These differences, these variations also exist. And it is universal. Go to advanced economies, there also you'll find these kind of inequality. Go to poorer countries, there also you'll find some people who are rich among those who are poor. So in society, differences also exist. Some differences are biological and some other kind of differences might exist. Difference in wealth is not necessarily biological. So both similarities and differences, likeness and differences are integral part of society and they're universal. Now the next point, sometimes these differences are something which is natural, by the way. Everywhere you will find differences. But sometimes the differences might be graded. Those who have wealth might be considered superior. Those who do not have enough wealth, they might be considered inferior. On the basis of skin color, some people might be considered superior and some people might be considered inferior. That happens. Different kinds of racial discrimination exists even now in some of the advanced societies as well. Right? So societies are also divided into different layers, different strata. Strata means layer. So stratification takes place. People are graded. Different groups are given different positions in society. Some are considered superior, some are considered inferior. And again, in between, multiple layers can be there. So there are stratification based on status, prestige. There are stratification based on classes. Class typically refers to someone's wealth, income situation. Right? So you might have an upper class, you will have a lower class, somewhere you will have the middle classes. And again, within these classes, again, multiple compartments can be there. Lower middle class, upper middle class, etc. So stratification on the basis of wealth does take place. Stratification on the basis of status is also there. Caste system is an example of this. Some people are considered superior in the caste hierarchy. Some people are considered inferior in the caste hierarchy. Right? So this is nothing but status. People who are considered to be superior in the caste hierarchy need not be wealthier. For example, typically in India, most of the places, Brahmins are considered to be at the top of the caste hierarchy. Are they the wealthiest? No. There can be others who are wealthiest. But in terms of prestige or status that the society accords, maybe they are at the top. And I'm not saying this is good. I'm saying that this is what happens in many places in the country. So differences exist, and many times differences lead to stratification. Society, again, grades people. There is some form of gradation. And this gradation can be in terms of status, it can be in terms of classes. Sometimes it is also in terms of power. Some people are extremely powerful, politicians. And among politicians also, there are some politicians who might be extremely powerful. Maybe the prime minister in some countries it might be the president. Then you might have the legislators, the members of the judiciary, bureaucrats. On the other hand, there will be people who are powerless, no say. They're not part of any influential forum. They do not have any key contacts. So gradation can also take place on the basis of power. So these are all things which happen in all societies. These are all universal features. Within society, you will also find interdependence. Between people, you will find interdependence. They're depending on one another. One of the most common example is family. In family, there is dependence. I'll give you an example. Within family, not all members will be earning money. Right? Maybe those who are adults, they are the ones who make money. What about the younger ones? The younger ones, they're supposed to be in school, or they're not supposed to work, right? Child labor and all these things are not, they're all prohibited. And again, if child labor happens, then all these things can have different kinds of negative impacts on the child. So the young ones are dependent on the adults for different requirements. There is interdependence. Not just the young ones, the elderly also. They're also dependent on those who are the working members. Those who are, let's say, 70-year-old, 80-year-old. They might not be able to work outside, right? They might not have the physical strength to do all those things. So within family, you will find different kinds of interdependence. If you look at the larger economy, also there is interdependence. I'll give you an example. In modern economy, especially urban areas, just see what kind of activities people are engaged in. People are all specialized. There might be someone who is an expert in medical sciences, right? He's a doctor, maybe. So, what that person is doing, that person is treating patients. He's an expert. He has done his MBBS, he has done his MD, he knows his stuff, he or she. But this person is also dependent on others. For example, he might not have enough time to prepare his own food. So he or she might have hired a cook. That person might be having a driver who drives him or her from his or her home to the clinic. In day-to-day transactions, people are dependent on others. This person is obviously not uh, growing the food crops that he is consuming. He is going to a retail outlet, is purchasing all these things. And in the retail outlet, again, they also themselves have not produced all these things. They will be dependent on some wholesaler. The wholesaler would be procuring it from the farmers. The farmers is producing the crops. So there is interdependence among everyone in the economy. So if you look at society, there are different elements to it, different types of people, especially in modern industrialized economy, urban economies. You'll find people doing different kinds of jobs, different kinds of activities. Each individual is specialized in his her domain. And for other kinds of goods and services which are required, they're dependent on others. So there is interdependence. Also, you have cooperation between people. Interdependence, cooperation, they are again linked with one another. People cooperate with one another. Sometimes there can be conflict. In societies, conflicts are also integral part. There are some people who will have a particular viewpoint, other people might have a counterpoint. Conflict and cooperation both are important. Cooperation ensures that the society remains intact. Different kinds of goals within society can be achieved. For example, in India, we face different kind of challenges, different kind of problems. You need cooperation between different stakeholders to achieve that. We have to address poverty, malnutrition, hunger. Right? For that, again, cooperation is required between different stakeholders. But within society, again, you have conflicts. Conflicts need not necessarily be bad. Sometimes there might be different viewpoints, can lead to conflict. If you do not have conflicts, the different viewpoints cannot come up. Sometimes a new point which has come up might actually be able to solve the existing problem. Conflicts, new ideas, all these things can also lead to innovation. So conflicts are also integral part of society. But again, to what level or what is the extent of conflicts, these things are also equally important, right? It should not be the case that conflicts is leading to a situation where the society has become disintegrated. That might not be the best thing for the society. The last part, society is a process. What do I mean by this? Society is an ongoing process. What I mean to say here is societies are not static. Societies keep on changing, keep on evolving. The kind of society that we see right now, maybe 20 years down the lane, not even 20 years, 10 years down the lane, 5 years down the lane, it would have changed. Societies keep on changing. The interactions, keep in mind that society is about interaction. It's about relationship between people. When people are interacting with one another, they're creating new things. When people, and the relationship between people, again, it evolves. So the kind of society that you saw maybe 20 years back and the kind of society that we have right now, it is different. Some of you might be old enough to remember all these things, right? How 20 years back things were and how things are right now. Or you might ask your parents, great grandparents, how was the society back then and how it is right now? In fact, some of these things might be visible in front of you. Some of the social norms, right? They have changed. At some point of time, same sex couples right? There was some form of discrimination against them, but over a period of time, that is changing. Our laws have also changed, by the way. Look at media, right? Now, different movies, TV series, they will try to have greater representation from different genders. At some point, that was not the case. So, some societal norms have changed. I mean, these are things which are visible. Many other things which you might not have noticed, and in the next uh, few sessions, you will also realize. So, the point is, society is an ongoing process. It is continuously changing. As we are discussing these things, as we are talking, some changes are happening somewhere. Prevalence of child marriage has gone down. At some point of time, it might have been in some places, right? People would have accepted or people would have promoted all these things. Now people don't do that. And if you compare it, if you look at the larger picture, maybe 100 years, 200 years, many societal norms back then, sati and all those things, they're not acceptable. They're considered a criminal offense now. So the point is, societies change. Society is not an end product, it is an ongoing process. So these are all different features, characteristics of society. Now, what we will do is we'll try to understand what is the linkage between individual and society. Right? We are all individuals. How individual and society are linked with one another? Is there any linkage? As I was saying, society is a web of relationship. Society involves different interactions. Society implies that when individuals are coming together, something new is created. Values, norms, all these things are created. But how does an individual get impacted by these values and norms? The birth of an individual, it's a biological process, right? But how is society influencing this individual? See, many of the decisions that we take, by the way, are shaped by society. In fact, why are you preparing for civil services examination? If you think about it, maybe it has got something to do with society, right? Why have you been influenced to take this? The kind of food that you consume, again, you might have been influenced by society. For example, different kinds of religious groups or different kinds of religion, they will be against a particular kind of food or they will be in favor of a particular kind of food. And you might also be following that. The kind of attire that you wear. So, all these things might be socially influenced. I'm not saying always, but might be. But how do you get influenced by all these things? When a child is born, that child is an empty slate. The child does not know what are the different values in the society, what are the norms of the society. The child does not even know a language when he or she is born. But over a period of time, the child gets, or the different kinds of values and norms that are there, out there, it is transmitted into the child. This process is called socialization. How does it happen? A child is born within a family. So, the family is the institution for primary socialization. The child is socialized. The existing norms and values of the society is gradually transmitted into the child. So, first few years, that is the case. Afterwards, right, when the child is going to the school, maybe when the child is 4 year old, 5 year old, 6 year old, the child now has his own network, goes to the school. So, different values, norms which are predominant, prevalent in the society, they are again transmitted into the child through the institution of education. Also, the child makes different friends around, peers, right? From that, also he or she learns things. So again, the different societal values you inculcate. And this is not something which happens or which is a process which happens only when you are a child. This is a lifelong process. At different points of your life, you will be exposed to different kinds of values. Some values you will take up, some values you might reject as well. So the point is, all these values, norms exist somewhere. You gradually get exposed to these values, norms. different institutions within the society, the institution of family, the institution of education, all of them have a role to play in socializing you. But it's not that an individual is completely socialized. Whatever existing values, norms are there, he or she believes in all those things, follows all these things. Individual also questions some of these things. In fact, in the education system, right, you are also taught that you should be questioning things. Scientific outlook is given to you. You are also there is an attempt to make you more rational. So some of these norms you might question. Some of these norms you will accept. Some of the norms you might not accept. Now let's look at the formal definition of socialization. Socialization is a process whereby an individual learns to adjust to a group and behave in a manner approved by the group or society. Right? So some values, norms are out there. Through the process of socialization, you are learning these values, and accordingly, you are behaving with others. Right? For example, one of the value out there is you should be respecting your elders. So when you interact with the elders, you behave in this manner, right? You respect the elders. You should be affectionate to the younger ones, right? So that is how you behave. You should love your neighbors, right? So you are interacting with your neighbors in a peaceful, cordial manner. You are not fighting with them. So these are all different kind of values out there, and you are getting socialized with that. Another way of thinking about it, socialization is the whole process of learning throughout the life course, and it is a central influence on the behavior, beliefs, actions of adults as well as children. Right? So you learn all these values, you keep on learning throughout your life, not just when you are a child, and all these things shapes your behavior, belief, actions. Right? How you behave with others, what kind of beliefs you have, what kind of action, right? How you act. All these things are shaped by these values, and these values are out there. Through the process of socialization, you inculcate it. But the question is everyone equally socialized? If everyone is equally socialized, what will happen? The norms existed. Everyone is equally socialized. That means everyone will be same. Everyone is adhering to the norms equally. So there's not much difference between individuals, at least when it comes to their behavior, beliefs, and thoughts. Is it true? It might not be true. Socialization leads to people inculcating values, but people do not inculcate values to the same extent. Some people might follow the social norms religiously with greater uh, intensity, maybe rigorously, but not everyone. There are a lot of people who will question these values. They will say, okay, no, these norms don't seem to be in sync with the present context. They don't seem scientific, maybe they don't seem rational, maybe I will not follow it. They might be more individualistic. So this particular image that you see, or the characters that you see, will give you an idea that not everyone is equally socialized. Not everyone is equally influenced by the societal norms and values. Some people, for example, this is the poster of the movie Three Idiots, and it basically shows different characters. One character, for example, the character played by Madhavan, he had his own goals, aspirations, but he wants to adhere to the norms of the society. Similarly, Sharman Joshi also plays that character who wants to adhere to the norms of the society. Even if Madhavan's passion is wildlife photography, he just wants to become an engineer and take up the job because that's what his parents want. And why they want this? Because this is what the society thinks is important. You should not be really caring about your passion and other things. On the other hand, you have another character who is questioning everything. Whatever existing norms, values are there, he questions that. So this person might not be completely socialized. In fact, he is questioning all these norms, while another character might be accepting all the different kinds of societal norms. At the end, again, in the movie, things are different, but I'm talking about that phase when they are in the college, in the initial years of the college. So the point here is not everyone is equally influenced by the societal values and norms. Different peoples accept norms to different levels. So, and that is also the reason how there are different kinds of variations within the society. So this is society and some of the features, characteristics of society. Now, what we will do is we will try to understand the features of Indian society. Right? You now have an idea what society looks like, but what are some specific features of Indian society? So, what we will do is we'll look at some of these dimensions one by one. First, we will try to understand caste system. In India, there is something called as caste system, and I already mentioned societies are stratified on the basis of status. Caste system is this status-based stratification. Some people are given higher status, they are accorded higher prestige. Some are given lower status, lower prestige. So, what is this? On what basis this uh, stratification is happening? On what basis higher status, lower status is given? What are the different perspectives related to caste system? Different sociologists, anthropologists, they have studied caste system and what has been their finding. One of the most unfortunate parts of caste system is some castes, some people, they're considered to be untouchables. Different kinds of civil and religious disabilities are imposed on them. So, what is untouchability? What are the different forms of untouchability? Why does it exist? Right? So, all these things we are going to discuss under caste system. The next feature, India is home to different tribes, tribal communities. In fact, somewhere around 8% of the population, they're tribes. So, how do you identify who are the tribes? What are the features of the tribes? In fact, identification of tribes is also not easy. It's difficult. What makes it difficult? Right? We'll try to understand all these things here. And we'll also see different examples of how this classification happens. What are the different kinds of tribes that we have in India? The next is we'll try to understand the different kind of classes that exist in India. Right? One thing that I was mentioning some time back is stratification can also happen on the basis of class, on the basis of one's income, wealth. So in case of India, what are the different kind of classes? Here, what we'll do is we'll try to look at the agrarian society, the rural society. What kind of classes exist over there and how these classes are changing. Mostly in rural areas, people will be engaged in agriculture. They have a relationship with the land over there, a specific kind of relation. Most of them will be dependent on agriculture for their livelihood. But this dependence will vary. Accordingly, you have different classes. In urban area, you have upper classes, lower classes, but one class, middle class, is often in the news. Many of us would have used the term middle class. We are the middle class. Now, what is middle class? How do you find out where the middle class starts, where the middle class ends? What are some of the unique features of middle class? What are the unique features of middle class in India? So, the different social classes we will try to analyze here. Next thing, religion. In India, we have different religions. People follow different kinds of faith. And some people might not even subscribe to any of those faiths. So we'll try to understand the religious diversity that exists in the Indian context. And we'll look at how religion and some of the socio-economic parameters, how they're linked with one another. Right? Which religion, people from which religion, how do they perform, how do they fare in terms of different socio-economic indicators. Another dimension of society is family, households, family and households. So, in India, what kind of families you have? Whether you have small families, large families, within the families, who generally takes the decision? What is the family structure? What are the functions of family? How the family structure and functions are changing with time? What are some of the interesting findings when it comes to family in the context of India? We'll see that. Now, all these things gives you an idea that in India, there are a lot of variations. There are somewhere around 4,000 castes in India. There are so many tribes in India. Massive variations among them. In India, if you have to understand the social classes, again, it becomes a daunting task. So much variation. Rural areas, urban areas, again, urban areas also vary from place to place. How do you find out how many people belong to the upper classes, middle classes, lower classes? So much amount of religious diversity. Families are also changing. So the point is, we have a diverse population, multiple axes along which there is diversity. But what is interesting is, despite this diversity, we have unity. So, despite the variations, what holds the Indian society together? What are those threads which holds India together, which ensures that India is united? So, that is what we will try to understand. So, these are things that we will take up one by one, from caste system to diversity and unity. So, this is how the structure looks like from now onwards.